Donald Trump was panicking at 1 a.m. in the morning, making social media post after post. Here's what went down. The United Arab Emirates shut down the Dubai airport and all its other major airports and said that Iran was launching ballistic missiles and drone strikes all over the UAE. Donald Trump saying, well, we're still in a ceasefire, so everything's fine. Let's just pretend that none of this is going on. Here's the message from the United Arab Emirates Ministry of Defense. Here's what they posted at around 1 a.m. The UAE's air defenses are currently dealing with missile and drone attacks originating from Iran, and the Ministry of Defense confirms that the sounds heard in various parts of the country are the results of UAE air defense systems intercepting ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and drones. UAE air defense systems are actively engaging with missiles and UAV threats. Ministry of Defense asserts that the sounds heard across the country are the results of these ongoing operations. Okay, so that's what UAE is saying. And then they shut down, at least temporarily, the Dubai airport. And right before the United Arab Emirates Ministry of Defense posted these warnings that their air defense systems were activated, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps spokesperson, Abraham Zulfgari, you've seen this guy before speak, he posted the following: short and clear, if we have to, we will annex Abu Dhabi to Iran's territory. Then he posted the coordinates for Dubai airport. The opportunity is limited with the coordinates for Dubai airport, where if you were going to strike it with a missile, these are the coordinates that you would set. And then he writes, people of the Emirates, stay away from oil and military centers, or better yet, leave the United Arab Emirates. Leave the UAE now, he posts. Now this followed CENTCOM admitting that the United States launched strikes against Iran right around the Karg Island. CENTCOM and Donald Trump said these were limited strikes. And then they said, please, let's just continue our ceasefire. We don't want to escalate things. The Trump version and the CENTCOM version of events is they were sending 3 naval destroyers through the Strait of Hormuz. When Iran started firing on these naval destroyers, the naval destroyers were untouched by Iran's fast boats. And then the United States Navy and Air Force quickly struck these targets in Qasem Island, or the Qasem port, rather, right around Karg Island. And the Trump regime says very successful operation. Iran says we saw these 3 naval destroyers. The fast boats of Iran went to neutralize them, started shooting at the naval destroyers. The destroyers left. They did fire on Qasem and other areas near Karg Island, no major damage was done, and the U.S. fled after Iran showed that it still controlled the Strait of Hormuz. And then in response, at least the UAE saying then Iran's retaliating against UAE very, late last night or early in the morning, depending on what time, you're watching this. So what's Donald Trump doing? I mean, that's big news, right? That's a big story. Donald Trump putting these naval destroyers in the Strait of Hormuz, things escalating, right? Well, here's what Donald Trump posted at 1 a.m. It's posted 1 a.m. Hakeem Jeffries doubles down on maximum warfare rhetoric, tells critics, I don't give a damn. Then Donald Trump is citing Fox News. Actually, it's the interview that we did with Hakeem Jeffries that Fox keeps on talking about and Donald Trump keeps on talking about, where Hakeem Jeffries talks about maximum warfare in the sense of fighting the Trump regime in a political sense, fighting the Trump regime in winning the midterm elections and not giving an inch as the Trump regime engages in this racist, horrifically racist gerrymandering, which was blessed by the right-wing Supreme Court that gutted the entire Voting Rights Act. So now we see in states like Virginia, Alabama, other states, they're going to get rid of all black congressional districts to make sure black Americans have no voice, no vote literally what the Civil Rights Act and what the Voting Rights Act was intended to prevent. But like what a baby Donald Trump is, right? At 1A, I mean, Donald Trump, who dishes it all of the time, says the most heinous and despicable and vile things about people. The moment someone like Democratic leader Hakeem Jeffries uses a term like maximum warfare in the sense of winning an election, Donald Trump clutches his pearls and he goes, "Oh my God, how could you say that?" And he posts it at 1 a.m. What a pathetic little loser he is, right? Just such a loser quality. But then Donald Trump posts, Trump stock market all-time high, the S&P 7,300. Yes, Donald, because most Americans are spiking the football that the S&P was 7,300. I'm sure that's how most Americans felt. Hell yeah. No, most Americans can't afford things right now. The average price of gas is about $4.50 a gallon nationwide. In many states, it's above $5 a gallon. In some states, it's above $6 a gallon. And the price of gas is only continuing to rise. The futures market of crude's about $103 per barrel. Americans can't afford homes, rent, groceries, clothing, anything. People are delinquent on their credit card bills, mortgage defaults and foreclosures are up 26% year over year. Farm foreclosures up, or farm bankruptcies up 50% in the Midwest, up 73%. Farm bankruptcies, jobs stagnant, job decreases nationwide. That's what most Americans are dealing with. But Donald Trump posting photos of gold statues, or what Donald Trump do yesterday? He took the motorcade through the reflecting pool. The reflecting pool had all the water removed. Then Trump took his motorcade and then he like called the female reporter like a bitch. Did you see he like lipped like bitch because she asked him a question? Then Donald Trump started attacking the reporter. Why would you ask me this question? Do you like dirty water? Do you know what dirty water is? I mean, it's really weird. It was one of the strangest press conferences I'd ever seen. You just contrast that to like what the Iranian leaders are saying, who are treating what's happening like there's a war, because there is. You have the head of National Security Commission in Iran, Abraham Azizi, saying, making the same mistake again and again won't get you a different answer, only a stronger one. Respect the new maritime regime of Iran. The Iran Foreign Ministry spokesperson also says, if you see the lion's fangs protruding, do not imagine that the lion is smiling. You have the Iranian embassy in Sierra Leone and other social media accounts just mocking the Trump regime with photos like this. U.S. warships near Iranian territorial waters, or this social media post. Trump's account of tonight's events around the Strait of Hormuz is bizarre. To save face, no corner of fantasy land is evidently too deep for Donald Trump. America returning to Manab. That was one of the areas where America struck last night as well, which was also in the beginning of the war, the elementary school where the United States massacred the elementary school and killed the little girls. America returning to Manab tonight like a criminal revisiting the crime scene, except this time Iran answered the door. And so you have CENTCOM acting like America had this very successful mission in the Strait of Hormuz. Iran's side of events is, no, we repelled the United States naval destroyers that are no longer in the Strait of Hormuz. And then Iran evidently retaliated against the UAE and Dubai Airport and other international airports there are closed. The way I look at it, very simply, who controls the Strait of Hormuz right now? If the U.S. operation was successful, wouldn't the U.S. control the Strait of Hormuz and the cargo and tanker ships that are not getting out of the Strait of Hormuz start getting out? So if that doesn't happen, it's easy for me to see who's winning. That's the metric that I use right now. I see the Strait of Hormuz. I look at what the U.S. objectives were. None of them are met. Seems pretty simple to me. Meanwhile, Iran's national security analyst, Mahdi Mohammadi, who's with that negotiating team very close to MB Ghalibaf and Araghchi, he goes, the war has essentially not even ended before it begins anew. Iran controls both the passage and the choke point in the Strait of Hormuz. More importantly, across the entire Middle East, Iran will not permit the redeployment of America or the expansion of the Israeli regime's military presence to the east. A new order has been born. Economic pressure and siege will be met with a military response. Now, as I've said before, Donald Trump has really two options. Donald Trump can escalate, do a ground invasion, and unleash the full force of the United States military, which would also involve committing war crimes, which would also involve committing heinous acts, which would also result in thousands, perhaps tens of thousands or more of American troops dying. I don't support that at all. Let me be very clear where I stand. I condemn all of the Trump regime's genocide and war crimes. I condemn it in the strongest possible sense, but that's a path. That's option one. Option number two, the Trump regime can negotiate with Iran, make concessions, recognize that the U.S. did not win this war, create a deal that resembles Obama's deal that Donald Trump attacked, which we see was actually a pretty good deal. It'll probably be a weaker deal than Obama's non-nuclear deal. You probably have to also recognize some level of control of Iran over the Strait of Hormuz long term. But you see, the thing is, Israel will never allow that. Saudi Arabia will never allow that. UAE will never allow that, even if that's actually what could be in the best interest of the region, because they'll view that as an Iran that has more power, even if it creates a situation where the ships can leave the Strait of Hormuz. And Trump is so caught up in his emolument clause violations and his quid pro quos that he can't let down Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Israel, right? And so, we have this other path that Donald Trump just keeps a naval blockade of Iran's control of the Strait of Hormuz. And meanwhile, if you start looking at some of these stats, the world's running out of oil. American consumers are reaching into their 401ks and their life savings, and they're running out of money. Like, American consumers may run out of money. That K-shape. I know the rich are getting richer, as Donald Trump bragging about the S&P and tech stocks and AI stocks or whatever. Most Americans are suffering right now. That's where they are, in the bottom K, where most Americans live in a great recession or depression right now. That's how most Americans feel about this economy. And meanwhile, you have this. You have state regime media telling its viewers that the Strait of Hormuz was never open and it was always closed, and Iran always closed it, and now our mission is to open it. But it was always closed. It was never always closed. It was open before. Like, they just make the craziest things up. It was closed before. It was never closed before Donald Trump invaded. It was always open. Anyway, here's what they say on Fox. Let's play it.
That's dangerous for the entire world.
That is true, but that wasn't the situation when the strait was open prior to this.
Fact. You are not allowed to mine international waterways, and Iran's been doing that for decades. It was not open. It was constantly under their influence.
We're outnumbered in just a moment. Stay with
Mic drop.
And then, while you have Iran making all of those comments, you have Pete Hegseth posted this video. You know how Iran makes those Lego videos and Iran makes those great social media videos that are very, great in the sense of understanding the modern audience and how to convey information in interesting ways, and certainly getting in the head of the Trump regime. So this is the response of Pete Hegseth. This is the video that was launched by Hegseth. Here, play this clip.
President Trump's War Department is flipping this rigged system on its head. We're not tolerating delays in production or cost overruns anymore. We've pushed out the bureaucrats who've made these deals in the past and replaced them with the most talented negotiators in the private sector. A group of businessmen so elite, they've been rightly dubbed Deal Team 6.
And as I said, consumers are running out of money and cutting back, CEOs warn. Executives are worried about U.S. shoppers with tighter budgets amid surging gas prices caused by the conflict in the Middle East. Rising fuel costs are impacting low-income consumers who are dipping into savings and have less money for discretionary spending like eating out. Americans are putting less away in savings and may change their spending patterns to balance their budgets if gas prices stay high. They're literally running out of money at the end of the month, Kraft Heinz co-chief executive officer Steve Callahan said in an interview this week. We're seeing negative cash flows in the lower income brackets where they're dipping into savings. And with all of that, Donald Trump's message is a ceasefire can happen any day or not at all. Here, play this clip.
I think it's the ultimate regime change.
How close would you say that you are to a deal right now with Iran?
Could happen any day. Could, and it might not happen, but it could happen any day. I believe they want the deal more than I do.
Are you aware?
And then Donald Trump threatens nuclear annihilation of Iran. If they don't make a deal with us, you'll see one big glow coming out of Iran, which again is threatening more war crimes. Let's play it.
President, after these strikes, is the ceasefire with Iran still on?
Yeah, it is. It's they trifled with us today. We blew them away. They trifled. I call that a trifle. I'll let you know when there's no ceasefire. You won't have to know. If there's no ceasefire, you're not going to have to know. You're just going to have to look at one big glow coming out of Iran. And they better sign their agreement fast.
Could you give us an update on what is the latest in those talks?
No, it's going. The talks are going very well, but they have to understand if it doesn't get signed, they're going to have a lot of pain. They're going to have a lot of pain. They want to sign it. I will tell you, they want to sign it a lot more than I do.
There you have it, folks. Let me know what you think. We'll keep you posted with more developments this morning. Thanks for watching, everybody. We appreciate you as always. Help us get to 7 million subscribers.
Love this video? Support independent media and unlock exclusive content, ad-free videos, and custom emojis by becoming a paid member of our YouTube channel today. You can also gift memberships to others. Let's keep growing together.